Hey, so this is Christy Thomas. This is for Intro to Theater with ACTC. This mini lecture video is over musical theater. This will be our last lesson for the semester, giving you 2 full weeks for the final project. Now, before I get into it, because this is crazy, I'm going to try, and think of it like a Cliff Notes of musical theater aspect. I just want to give a little background, because I'm also going to provide links I'm going to try to provide links to the musicals discussed or specific songs from the musical, and then kind of more of a variety of different stuff of where it's evolved to today in terms of grandiose scale, live versus film versus television live, you know, all the different avenues and whatnot. Anywho, so after this, you can check out all those videos. Let's not just jump into it, shall we? Okay, so musicals aren't really like new. The concept is not a new thing. Theater, drama has always gone along with music and dance. Ancient Greek choruses used to chant and sing along with accompaniment of music. Then we went into opera, which began in Italy in the 1600s, was originated by men that thought they were imitating the Greek choruses. And then we have Shakespeare, who wrote a lot of songs for his comedies. Melodrama, the word melodrama itself means song dramas, in which music is accompanied to the action on stage. There were other forms in the 19th century. In theatrical entertainment, we had vaudeville and burlesque. Singing and dancing were very important to both of those as well. Excuse me if you see me like clipping over. When I saw here, I got the book here that has all my notes, so I can see what's going on. All right, guys. We had a lot of beautiful things, a lot of great shows come out of musical theater. Now, before we really dive into musical theater, like I said before, having music and dance together is not a new concept. And the book talks about opera. Opera is a lesson all to itself. Opera is a course all to itself. You know, there's so much there. And I'm barely going to barely skim the top of the surface when I talk about it. But opera can really be defined as drama set entirely to music. Now, opera really spanned, like, really solid from about 1600 to 1900. And like I said, it originated in Italy, in the Florence area. And as it grew, it expanded to, like, France, Germany, and other European cities, in England as well. Opera has more, you know, every opera, they think arias. And arias are the strong, melodic solos. But there's so much more. There's choruses. I'm going to butcher this. I always butcher this word. Recitatives. The transition between scene to scene. But it really got a footing for itself. What it needed. You know, it was more than just the solos and the choruses. You know, there was all these different integrated parts as a whole, but it was all music based. It was all music. You know, and the plots, they range from historical to myths and legends to political. So it spanned. It wasn't just like it has to be this all the time. Brief history real quick on composers, important composers. Maybe you've heard of them. We have Alessandro Scarlatti. This was the aria. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. This is comedic opera. There's Richard Wagner. imposed on opera his ideas of monumental works. He did stories on myths and legends, which is monumental scores. It's like epic. Then there was Giuseppe Verdi, a wonderful musician, and brought the mastery, of orchestral techniques and impressive instinct for the dramatic flair, the dramatic effect. Then, when we get to about the late 19th century, early 20th century, we get Puccini. His operas were extremely popular. They had the romantic stories and the really good melodies. So, we kind of start dwindling down in operas, but it's not unusual for works from musical theater to be presented by opera companies. Porgy and Bess and Sweeney Todd are really two great examples of that, and we'll get more to those as we get to the different eras of musical theater. Like I said, that is the skim. Like, that is like not even the skimming the top of opera. That's like kind of blowing it in your general direction. This is opera. Like I said, it is a course to itself. It is a lecture to itself. It is it's so much more than what I got into it. I just wanted to touch base on kind of, we're cooking up some musicals up in here, folks. So, antecedents, building blocks to form the musical. We talked about operas. There were vaudevilles and burlesque. Now, early on, vaudeville and burlesque was dancing and singing. Then burlesque turned into, it had more denotive meanings than what they probably should have. But it started out as a show that, they were singing and dancing and all that stuff. Vaudeville, they did the political satires. They did of other theatrical forms. Like, they were just the over the top. So now we have kind of the building blocks or the ingredients kind of stirring around for musicals. And let's begin. So the 20s and 30s had great shows, great composers, and the songs from musical comedies became known as the standards. This is how it goes. Composers that come out, like, they were playing on the radio, they were in performances. Composers that came out of this era are Irving Berlin, Jerome Kern, George Gershwin, Cole Porter, and Richard Rodgers. They were new. They were fresh. They were off the beaten path. They were innovative. They were coming up with these beautiful, dramatic, weeping, emotional pieces that just spoke and really captured the essence of the story of the time. All that goodness.
Mom, I need more bubble gum. Mom.
That's my child in the background asking for gum. That's fine. Go have some.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I know. Joys of teaching when you have children.
Thank you.
Love you. Mommy's teaching. Thank you, baby. Where was I? Oh, yeah. So, the melodies range from springly to haunting. They were light and they were heavy. Which is great. Matching inventiveness of composers was the words of lyricists. So, Ira Gershwin wrote lyrics for his brother George's songs. Lorenz Hart teamed up with Richard Rodgers. Irving Berlin and Cole wrote their own lyrics to their music. And the lyrics are generally witty and clever and reflected the high order of the world, and things are unexpected. So this is what came out of our world. That's where we're starting. So that's 20 to 30s. I'm sorry, that wasn't 20s to 30s. 20s and 30s, we get the advances in musicals. Okay, So I really want to talk about Showboat. And I'm sure you've heard the Old Man River song. That's from Showboat. Showboat was a innovative story, especially for that time period. It was a musical set on a boat. It opened in 1927. The music was by Jerome Kern, and the books and lyrics were by Oscar Hammerstein the second. Excuse me. It represented advance in previous musicals. It was like the advanced. It was based on the novel by Edna Ferber about the life of the Mississippi riverboat. So it was Heart of America. The main story concerns were of Magnolia Hawks and Gaylord Ravenel. They meet, fall in love, perform on the showboat, lose their money because of gambling, but they eventually separate. Spoiler alert. Meanwhile, there's a subplot. It's a second romance. It's between the characters of Julie and Steve. This is represented for the first time in American theater of a love between an African-American woman and a white man. This is unheard of. It was just big taboo. And there was so much realism written into this script. And again, Old Man River, they use that as an example. The score, it included, like, Why Do I Love You, Make Believe, and Bill. But another big thing that came out of this was not only the story plot, Showboat eliminated the chorus line of girls. And prior to this, that was considered a must-have in a musical. You had to have the show line, the chorus line of girls. So, Showboat was innovative for so many reasons. The next quick one out of this is Of Thee I Sing. It was awarded a Pulitzer Prize. This is the first time a musical ever received that accolade. Music and lyrics were by George and Ira Gershwin, and it's a satire on political and cultural institutions such as the presidential elections and the Miss America contest, excuse me. So we had, and the Porgy and Bess came along, which was also a great one from this show. It's set in the black community in Charleston, South Carolina, known as Catfish Row. Porgy is a crippled man who falls in love with Bess, who's been the woman of a man named Crown. So a lot of people go up in arms if it should be presented as a musical or as an opera. And it's been performed in theaters as labeled as both. We get out of this song, is it? Yeah. It Ain't Necessarily So, Bess, You Is My Woman Now, in Summertime. Now, I'm going to provide links to songs from both Showboat and Porgy and Bess, and I think I have one from Of Thee I Sing. So make sure to check those out. I'll come back and we will continue on with musical theaters from the 1940s and 50s.